Hey guys, and welcome back to Go on Overland. In this video we're going to be talking about my DIY bed slide as well as what tools I'm carrying here in 2022. So guys, I kind of designed all this myself. Luckily I was up in Washington. I had my uncle help me. We did this part first. This was kind of the first part. This actually just holds my canopy. So we have a craft fair business, and on the weekends we do craft fairs, and so the canopy can fit in there. And when I get to a show, that's the first thing I can pull out, and nothing is blocking that or causing me not to be able to get in there at all. Again, it's not on a slide, but it's literally just a canopy, so it comes out. Down the middle, I carry a lot of metal. We do custom signs, and so I thought I could roll that out. It's just way too heavy. I would need to develop some kind of rollers, but there is a bit of plywood there. That's just not really working. The main thing we're talking about today is this guy here. So this is where all my tools are. Of course, before I had this camper shell on, I had an actual standard truck box, and then I went to kind of a truck toolbox that was back in that corner. Well, right now we're at a show. We're set up over there behind us, and all of the stuff besides this is all gone right now. On a typical day, it's pretty much stacked to like here. Well, that makes it pretty much impossible to get my tools out. So the shows are on Saturday, Sunday. If we're midweek and we get a tire blowout or we need tools, I wanted to be able to access them. Well, friends, we just made it to Kansas City and we caught it now. So we popped into this little neighborhood and try to change this as quick as possible. So that's where this came in. Of course, this is 3/4 inch plywood. You know, it's painted, it's reused from some project. I was able to use my Craig pocket hole driller to kind of build this. This isn't going to go into details on how I did that, but with the 3/4 inch plywood, you're able to do that nice little pocket hole, and that is pretty much what's holding it together. I have a couple little clamps like this around a few spots, but for the most part, it's just 3 little pieces. There's not a bottom because the bottom is where that slides. Now this does have that plastic liner, and with that it really helps stuff to slide in and out really nicely. So guys, let's get into it. I want to show you a bit about how I use it and what tools I'm carrying. So one of the first things I carry, this is my socket set. This is mostly just my 1/2 inch stuff. So this is my heavy duty stuff. I'm using this for all kinds of stuff like taking the hitch apart or, you know, changing tires and stuff. I'll grab my Milwaukee and I can just go to town on this stuff. I got a couple of wrenches, but just like this is all my heavy duty stuff. So what I do is I just slide that away and get it out of the way. Something I use often are these Lynx levelers. I've talked about them in the past. I think this is good even for overlanding if you have a little trailer or something like that. They're really strong and they're really easy to use. Guys, this is, you know, if you grew up in the 80s, 90s like I did and you're used to Legos, guys, this is adult Legos. You still get to play Legos, but you have a reason to tell your wife while you're out playing Legos. And so some of these things we never grow out of. We just change our toys a bit. Now this, we'll get into this a little bit later. I have 2 of these. There's another one tucked in the back that I would have to dig out if something got serious, but I feel like I only need one quick and handy. This is basically just a jack stand. So this is gonna give me the ability to set my bottle jack on there and give me a bit of height right out the gate. So we'll talk about this here in a little bit. Some WD-40 fell out, but use that for everything. This is part of my trailer tongue, and this is the lock. So when we take the trailer off, I'm able to lock it. That's just to keep the honest. That's not really doing anything there. There's better options for that. Maybe we'll go into that in the future. So now we kind of get into it sliding a bit. So again, guys, this isn't really an actual bed slide, but with this plastic bed liner, with all this weight in there, it actually slides really well. So So here's some more caps. This is just the cap to those link locks. That makes a nice landing pad, whether it be for your jack stand or whatever else. So I always have a star bar. Guys, I don't go anywhere without a star bar. I can change whatever trailer. You know, I have a few different trailers, and whatever I'm working on, I want to make sure that I can change someone else's tire, change the truck. So I always have a star bar. Even though I have my big heavy duties, I pretty much use the big old Milwaukee Impact on everything, but just in case I have a star bar. So now this is where I run these little Coca-Cola pop distributor type things. So this is how I get by with sliding stuff out. So in here I have another bit of gear. Basically I have some tools, some hand tools, an air gauge, a couple of screwdrivers, some wire pliers, and just, you know, just a handful of little pliers that you can use to get you out of a pinch or all the different projects we go through. This was a bit of leather. I made this into a little tool pouch. So that's that. Now this is where kind of the money's at. This is the 2 bottle jacks I run. These are the big red jacks. Now guys, I got a tall one and a short one. And I've done different videos on this, but you'll see that sometimes you need to jack stuff up twice. So this will get it started to where you get a certain height, and then you can put this one under and get a bit higher. But that's where this comes in. So I can grab some height immediately. Of course, my truck's, you know, a big full-size pickup. The camper, trying to jack that up, you automatically need to get some height right away. Of course, if you haven't used a bottle jack, this unscrews up the top, and that gets you that height as well. But at some point, these things, these rigs that we have, especially if you run 33s or 34s, you're already sitting up there pretty high. So it was so dead that it's actually taking 2 jacks, and that is a pro tip there. Friends, I'm going to talk about my tools at some point and do a walkthrough of what we carry. It's kind of funny because we're in a city now, but we're usually down some back road, some dirt road, way off, where there's no help to be seen or had or heard, and no cell service. So something like this, we have to have a couple jacks. I still have another one that the truck came with, and I have a bunch more blocks. You can see that block in the back one. Luckily I don't need one for this other jack, but I have one. So we got a bunch of tools, and they all have their own purpose. Of course, here's my handles. I keep those, so just right out the gate, I can grab this and start changing tires. That's some of the stuff I really want right away. I have my brake fluid, some oil, some extra oil, and a funnel, an old shop rag or t-shirt, an extra pin for my hitch. I don't know why this ratchet ended up there, but we'll stick that back where it goes. And then here's another hitch. I got this one on right now for the trailer, but a little drop 2-inch hitch there. When I'm pulling my flatbed, I'll use that pretty regularly. But the way I have this system is I can get to this stuff quickest. That's what I feel like I use most often in this current configuration. So what I do is I just scoot that out of the way. So for me, everything has to go this way. Whatever I'm using, because it's not, this is just a piece of plywood. It doesn't have the ability to hold much weight. I keep everything kind of sliding out. And in fact, I could even slide it in this direction. So we'll just get that back out of the way. So now that's there. And this is gonna slide a little bit more. This is where I have my socket set. Now guys, I'm gonna drop a link to these jacks and these different socket sets that I recommend. Not these actual ones, but you know, this is my 3/8 inch and my 1/4 inch. Again, I have my 1/2 inch, some of my heavy duties in that other bag. But this is just a kit that every guy needs in the back of his truck. I love these little red twists. Man, these things are good for every little project you got going on. So that thing gave out years ago, so I got a little red twist there. Another set of gloves, guys, I recommend, I have all kinds of gloves. I'm gonna drop a link to Giver gloves. These are actually back here because I keep my Giver gloves there next to me tucked in the seat next to my truck. The best set of gloves I've ever had. So I'm gonna drop a link to those in the description, but I threw these in the back too just because I like having a set of gloves everywhere. So then I got a set of wrenches, you know, your SAE and metric. And so I keep that tools there. Then underneath that, that's where I was saying this thing should go. So I have all my ratchet straps. That's pretty much all this is. And then I have a cheapo little tire inflator. And then another one, another cheapo kind of tire inflator. Guys, these will get you out in a pinch. And I forgot to mention, we're gonna talk about some of the areas where I need to improve. This is my 2022, what I carry on my rig list. Guys, I can't wait to see how it changes over the years. But right now, this is kind of what I'm running. So we'll get to look back and see in a couple years where it's at. But, you know, I'm gonna drop a link in the description to an ARB tire inflator that I really recommend. You can have it in its own little case, or you can mount it to the rig and have onboard air. But either way, it's a good piece of kit. So that's kind of what that is, my straps and my tire inflator. The next thing I have is roadside flares. Now, if you're really out in the middle of an interstate or something like that, I recommend, if you're there for any kind of time, is go ahead and setting up a set of flares. So I actually run 2 of those. All right, so now is my jumper cables. Now guys, I'm looking into some of those Noco power jumper boxes. And so that's another thing that I'll probably end up getting pretty soon actually. If you have a camper, I've taken certain precautions to make sure I don't run my battery dead. But I have recently ran my battery dead and I've actually fixed that. So I had to pull out some jumper cables. An extra hitch, that was a drop hitch. Now this is kind of, I have it upside down, so it's a raised hitch, but just different scenarios. 12 volt flashlight that I could run, and then some zip ties that I know are back here. Nobody else knows they're there, but I do, so that's all that matters. And then I still run a chain. Now guys, you'll see in my recent video, we did the snatch strap. I'll put a link to it here. So I don't run this anymore for pulling me out or doing any situations. If I really had to like tie something up or maneuver something, I keep it on board for a few situations. If I had to add some length or something, I'd probably still run it just because you do what you got to do. But in here, these are some little bolts for the shackles on my travel trailer. And then just a little, you know, a few little bits and pieces along here. This is just full of different cotter pins and bolts and nuts and stuff that I think will get me out of a pinch. This is some fuses and electrical stuff. I think that's something a guy ought to have for sure on his rig, is fuses. Again, in that other kit, I have the electrical pliers and some electrical tape. There's always something that's not grounding out right, or a fuse pops or something, so make sure and have some of that with you. And then this guy here is just another strap. You know, this could go around a tree or something if you're trying to winch out, or it could add some length. Or, you know, my truck has the 2 hooks on the front. If I really want to get towed out properly, I'd probably hook this on one hook and the other, and then have my snatch strap down the middle, so I got a nice even pull from the middle. But that's a bit of a light duty one, so that's another thing that'll be upgraded in the future. So this guy here, again, right now I can push all this stuff out of the way because I'm not full. If I was full, I would have to obviously put all this stuff on the ground, but this is how I found a DIY, just a simple basic truck slide. That way my tools aren't in the back. Real quick, I'll show you what I did on the end of this thing. Yeah, here's another one of those roadside flares, but I put a little lip on the back. It is in these plastic containers, so it can't go off the back. I can't pull this completely out and leave something back there. As long as there's something small that doesn't fall off the side, I can pull, and everything will end up coming out. So guys, just a bit more gear that I carry on me, and I actually include this as my tool count. You know, I do have this travel trailer, so I got a bunch more stuff in here that I carry that's kind of related to that. But just in terms of what I carry on the truck, I would typically have, you know, my little DeWalt impact, my DeWalt drill. I carry a charger because guys, we live on the road full time, so I have the chargers for all this stuff. And then here's that Milwaukee. Guys, this is really what you use if you're running a shop or something like that. It is just so intense. But when I rebuilt the rear end on this truck, I actually had to go to the junkyard and get a new one. I was doing some heavy stuff and doing some loaner tools, and one day I actually want to get the chainsaw, so I got the best battery that they offer. And so one day I plan on running the chainsaw with this and whatnot. So I really kind of went extreme on these tools here, but these are something I carry. You know, when I'm changing a flat tire or something like that on the side of the road, I'm always going to bring this guy out. I do have some impact sockets, but I need to get more. So again, I hope you guys can see that this is kind of something that's growing. It's in progress. You know, some of the highlights I would want you guys to make sure and have is I got the 2 bottle jacks. Again, I'm going to drop a link to those in the description. I always have a socket set, a wrench set. I'm going to drop a link to some Milwaukees that I would recommend down in the description. Road flares. You know, I don't use my ratchet straps as much. I used to have a cleanup and hauling business. I still have the flatbed trailer, but we would be strapping stuff down all the time. I probably carry too many of those. I got the road flares. I'll always carry jumper cables. I don't care if I get the jump starter pack or not by Noco. You know, I'm always going to have that. I'm always going to have a couple different hitches. I could probably have a hitch and some soft shackles like I talked about in a video in the past, but I carry my snatch strap under the back seat. I always have some spare clothes like a hoodie and some gloves. I brought out my Giver gloves. You know, these are the classics. These are the lightweights, I think, and I actually have a promo code, a discount code for these if you check out the description below. But I'm over here in Florida right now, so these are what I run. But in Colorado, I think these are actually their classics, and they're lined. And so I tend to run warm, so it's very rare that I would need something like this. Of course, we hit negative temperatures in Colorado, so I will definitely run these at times. But these lightweights by Giver are just holding up well. Again, I have gloves all the time. I used to think it was cool to be a tough guy, and I have hands that are still like leather. But guys, I protect what God gave me. I'm all about stewardship. You know, these are the only hands I'm gonna get, so I'm sure to make sure I got a good set of leathers on my hands when I'm twisting wrenches and stuff like that, working out in the cold. I'm gonna start putting some of this stuff away, but I hope it just gives you guys kind of an option out there. You know, we always want to get like the deck system. Guys, I got my eyes on the deck system. We were actually doing an expo in Salt Lake a couple months back, and of course Decked was there, and that's the system that you just can't beat. You know, that's something that we want. That's something that would make my life better and easier. But sometimes you don't have the funds for that. It's just not in the cards at that particular time. But that doesn't mean that you can't still get up and go on, right? You can still get out there and make things happen with what you have. You know, this plywood was super cheap. Actually, I got this from when I had the cleanup and hauling job. This piece of plywood was free, and this one over here, I was with my uncle over there in Washington, and we went out to a hardware store and said, give us your cheapest piece you got. They had this out back, and before you know it, they said we could just walk off with it. So I was traveling like we always are. You know, I don't have a house right now like I used to, and we're out on the road, and you try to find what you can. Well, we did such a good job on it, I haven't needed to replace it. So again, that was used plywood, but what's new, what's used, that's up to you guys. But you know, after you put it in your truck or start sawing on it, it's as used or as it's ever gonna be. So this is what's working for me. I always like to carry more tools. I always like to have more than I'm ever gonna need, and I usually do. I can usually pull up to someone on the side of the road and give them a hand. It's not the easiest system. You know, it doesn't have any kind of track or wheels or ball bearings or anything like that, but you know, as often as I go back there, it hasn't really been too inconvenient for me in the first place. But I really think this plastic really helps it slide nice. I do get these out quite often if we're trying to level the rig or do something like that. I grab those. Try not to grab this too much, because when I'm grabbing my heavy duty stuff, you know, I'm in trouble. But that's about it for me, guys. I really hope you enjoy this content. We're putting out a ton of videos like this, talking about gear, talking about stuff that helps us to get up and go on. We got a bunch of different camping videos coming up and stuff like that. So we'd love for you guys to subscribe and become part of this journey of Go On Overland. Guys, any kind of comments about our setup, maybe what you've done, what you think we should do different, we'd love to know about it there in the comments section below. Oh yeah, and one more thing I'm staring at. This thing is a must. So go over to the garden section at Ace, Home Depot, wherever. I run this over knee pads 24/7. You know, I can move it around whether I'm doing baseboard or something in the house or the truck bed. So this, as good as this slides, it'll kill your knees. So I love this because I get up on there and that is just the best thing for me. So I have two of these back here. I can move them around and it really saves my knees. I don't think, even though I'm a young guy, I'm not getting any younger. And so trying to make moves now at my age so that when I'm my dad's age and beyond, I'm not complaining about some of the things I could have avoided in life. So anyways, guys, I'm going to end it there for this video. God bless you. Get up and go on.